Each CFL team unveiled its award nominees on Wednesday. The biggest news came out of Winnipeg, where Canadian running back Brady Oliveira, not franchise quarterback Zach Collaros, received the nomination for Most Outstanding Player. Do you believe the voters in the Peg got it right? And were there any other surprises across the league?
Well, for full transparency, I do not get a vote at the local level. There's 5 reporters plus the team's head coach that get to vote in each respective CFL city. In Winnipeg, we have enough traditional legacy media people to fill those 5 spots. I will get a vote at the national and divisional levels for these awards, but I did not at the local level. I went on the record this past week in my post-game column saying that I would have voted for Zach Collaros. Yes, it is true that he threw 4 fewer touchdowns this season than last year. It is also true that he threw 2 more picks this season than he did last year, but he did throw for more yardage and he did have more rushing touchdowns. So to me, Zach Collaros and his ability to extend plays, his ability to find receivers downfield, even outside of structure when things start to break down, that is a big part of what opens things up for Brady Oliveira to be so dominant. With that being said, I certainly think Brady Oliveira is still very deserving of this recognition. He is currently at 1,980 yards from scrimmage. If he does play this week, I think it'll just be to get 20 more yards, be it on the ground or through the air or a combination of the two, so that he can hit 2,000 for the year. He's got 13 touchdowns. He has the second best rushing season ever by a Canadian player. The only season in front of him was 2013 John Cornish, who of course not only won MOP that year, he won the entire Canadian Athletics Award, the Lou Marsh, a tremendously prestigious award for, and I think 4 football players have won. I think Laurent Duvernay-Tardif was the most recent. But the point is, I was a little bit surprised, but I certainly don't think it's a wrong decision. I also will say I do think Zach Collaros was the victim of a little bit of voter fatigue. He's won MOP the last 2 years. I think it's tough when you've done that to continue to get the votes unless you do something truly outstanding or beyond what you've done the previous 2 years. And I will also say this shows a massive flaw in the antiquated system by which we design awards. I'm not going to ramble about this because we've talked about this on the show previously, but 2 players from the same team, if they are the 2 most deserving individuals league-wide, should be able to be finalists, even if they're in the same division or on the same team. So good for Brady Oliveira. Again, I would not have cast my ballot for him, but I also would like to be in a system where even a year from now or somewhere in the near future, he and Zach Collaros could have both been finalists for this award at the division or league levels because they deserve it. To me, they're the 2 top candidates, certainly in the West and arguably in the entire league.
Kudos to the people in Winnipeg who actually did vote on this award because they got it right here, Hodge. They made the correct decision in giving Brady Oliveira this award because
I just like that we live in a world where running backs simultaneously don't matter at all, but also they're the best player in the entire league.
I have the perfect rebuttal to that, and that this is the most outstanding player. It's not the most valuable player, right? If it was most valuable player, a running back feasibly cannot win it. They are not valuable enough in any capacity. But if you want to make it most outstanding, then Brady's accomplishments in terms of what he's been able to do at his position are far more outstanding this season than Collaros. And I appreciate that some of the numbers are better than last year and some of the numbers are worse. I hate that argument. I hate when people talk about, well, he won MOP last year and look at his numbers compared to that, because it removes any context. You're not basing it off what happened last year. You're basing it off what other people in the league have accomplished this year and what other people on his team have accomplished. And what Brady Oliveira has done this season is special, even for somebody who fundamentally dislikes the running back position and thinks it has limited value. What he's been able to accomplish personally on an individual level is remarkably impressive. So the voters in Winnipeg got this right because Zach Collaros, while he's very good, was just as expected, and Brady Oliveira went above and beyond.
as expected, just happens to be the two-time reigning most outstanding player in the league. He led the CFL in quarterback rating, in touchdown passes, and guided the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to yet another West Division regular season title. The argument for me comes down to this. If you take Zach Collaros away from this team, what would Brady Oliveira's numbers look like, and vice versa? I think you could stick, JC, to your argument in the past about running backs. Another average running back, let's kind of use the baseball terminology, WAR, wins above replacement. So an average running back in there, they might not have Oliveira's numbers this year, but I think they would come close to it.
I agree with you. I agree with you, but that's a value argument. That's a value argument. That's not an outstanding argument. That's a value argument. And I agree with you fundamentally.
In this instance, to me, it's one and the same. So I just think it's very hard, and I respect your opinion, JC, but I think it's very hard to differentiate these two. I totally agree with Hodge. These should be the two finalists. What this has done now has changed the entire most outstanding player voting at the division and essentially the league level, right? It's going to be Brady Oliveira versus Chad Kelly. Now I think there's more of an argument for Kelly to win that award, and it is very difficult to differentiate. I think Brady Oliveira has been outstanding for this team.
What was that word you used?
Isn't there outstanding? And Collaros has too. I think voter fatigue gets set in like it did with Stanley Bryant last year when he was voted most outstanding lineman again for like the umpteenth time, and he wasn't the best, most outstanding lineman in the league. So just because Zach Collaros has won it 2 years in a row means nothing. Evaluate this year on its own. I respect all those guys in Winnipeg who voted. This just happens to be my personal opinion. And I do think that JC has a point here that MOP versus MVP is much different. But I think Collaros this year had an outstanding season to once again lead this team to West Division title in the regular season. Oliveira's really good, and I think it's really close, but I give it to Collaros as good as those two were.
And by the way, for those wondering, because I agree, the conversation between Oliveira and Kelly is very different between Collaros and Kelly. Collaros has 33 touchdowns. Kelly has 23. Collaros has 15 picks. Kelly has 12. So the interceptions, yeah, Zach has more, but they're pretty close. Zach also has more pass attempts. But Collaros has 10 more touchdowns. Now, rushing-wise, yes, Kelly is the more effective runner. He's got 248 yards, 8 touchdowns. Collaros has 77 with 2. But even then, when you take the touchdowns into account, Collaros has 35 total. Kelly has 31. And as much as Kelly's numbers would have been better had he not taken some time to rest after the Argos clinched the East final, or at least clinched the East Division about 40 years ago, it feels like. You can't argue that, right? His performance is his performance. So I think it should have been Collaros, and that is my thing. And by the way, JC, I'm totally cool with your argument. But from here on forward, I never ever want to hear that running backs don't matter. You can say that, in my opinion, running back is not as important as other positions. That's perfectly valid. But never ever ever again tell me they don't matter. That's
value
garbage.
is different than performance. Value is different
and that's
than performance.
Fine. But don't tell me they don't matter. Don't tell me they don't matter.
Yeah. In terms of value. In terms of value. It's a value statement.
What you just said has no value. It's a garbage statement. We have, a new award here, most garbage take. Oh, look, they've already got JC's name engraved on it. Garbage.
I will happily die on this hill. I will take that award with pleasure. I will smile.
Wait, you're going to die on this hill? Well, hills are different than mountains, so therefore I can have one opinion about hills. Hey, I live in Manitoba. Anything above 10 feet is a mountain. Okay, that's our rule. That's how we do business here.
I'll just sit here and look at the mountains out my window.
JC, I think he's really nitpicking your words, which is acceptable on the show. You can't say that running backs don't matter. Right, okay. They do matter. There is a talent difference between Brady Oliveira and your average CFL running back.
Absolutely. You at least 100%.
Running backs don't matter is like a catchy catchphrase used in the analytics community. It's not strictly speaking
stop
true.
saying
They do. I haven't used the phrase running backs don't matter. I have used the lingo and the explanation
on this show.
Yeah.
I've explained to you in great detail why the value equation does not work for running backs and why they bring less to the table than other positions. Okay. Do they matter? Of course, everyone matters.
Okay. Thank you.
The assistant ball boy matters at least a little bit, right? Like everything has an impact.
Probably not.
In
Running backs more so.
Yes, the running back matters more than the assistant ball boy.
Bro, I'll tell you,
a
former Canadian University quarterback never playing in the pro level, it mattered when my boy Nick Fitzgibbon was in the backfield versus anyone else on a roster. With all due respect, I'm still tight with some of those guys. It mattered for a number of reasons that I'm not going to go into. Running backs out there, just don't even listen to JC, okay? Y'all matter.
Wait.
I'm fighting for them right now.
I love you.
Hold on. Dunk, you played quarterback at the U Sports level? I had no idea. Why don't you ever talk about it on the show?
I only talk about U Sports quarterbacks that are lighting it up like Trey Ford and the Canadians like Nathan Rourke.
Ah, I see.